please tell us something about your musical education?
I had a very traditional music education in a way. I piano lessons as a kid. I played trombone in the band, but I had a lot of friends who played in the band, in the school band, and so I wanted to hang out with them more. So I started playing a lot more music in the band, and eventually I fell in love with making music, both in the orchestra, but also I fell in love with film music, and that helped me fall in love with classical music. And so I realized in high school I really wanted to go to a formal music conservatory, and so I went to Manhattan School of Music, and that's where I did the majority of my training and education, and then I moved to Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm. Great. And what was your first project as a film composer?
Oh, well, it's interesting. My first project, I remember when I got to LA, I was an intern at a studio, and the first project that came through was a Disney Channel movie. And so I got to work on a movie for this Disney Channel. I prepared parts and did some arranging, but I was more of the intern, getting coffee. Mm-hmm. But the first film I scored was a terrible, terrible B movie by the same company that later made Sharknado. Mm-hmm. It was the first feature I ever did, called Countdown Jerusalem. It was terrible, but I think it's important that every point in the way you're trying to get better and trying to learn. I think there hasn't been a project yet where I haven't learned something incredible, and that's sometimes I wonder, how did I do that project a few years ago before I learned this or whatever, so it feels like every project I do I'm slowly getting better. And I think for everyone, even I bet you John Williams probably feels that way. There's like, oh, one day I'll get it right, I'll score a movie the right way. I think we're always trying to improve.
Mm-hmm. Do you have personal or musical idols?
Oh yeah, plenty. There are so many. One of the first ones that come to mind is Ennio Morricone. Cliff Martinez at one of these festivals a while ago. Some of his scores have been transformative for me. So that's some like Solaris. But then outside film music, there's so many, like Bill Withers. I listen to a lot of Bill Withers and The Doors, and the first music I fell in love with was hip hop. So I listened to Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. Those albums were the first albums that really meant something to me. So I think it's really important as a film composer not to just listen to film music, that you have to allow yourself the room and the time to really understand almost all musics. I think one of the reasons why John Powell, who actually is another idol of mine, one of the reasons why his music is so interesting is because he listens to a lot of world music. So there's a reason why The Bourne Identity is so incredibly groovy and rhythmically exciting and interesting. It's because he wasn't listening to film music. He was listening to rhythms and music from around the world. And I think the more you can excite your imagination with other musics other than just boring film music sometimes. I'm not saying film music is boring, but can be closed versus the music that's all around us all the time.
Mm-hmm. And what is for you the fascination of your music?
I'm fascinated by music's ability to tell a story. Mm-hmm. I think the reason music exists at all, from centuries ago, from people sitting in caves, the reason music existed was to help tell stories, to pass stories on through the rest of the tribe, through generations, by singing and playing instruments. And I think I carry that primal instinct with me through, I think, film music. I think film music is some of the most powerful music you could get because it is in service of telling a story. And I know that some people mark that as a negative against film music, that, it exists only with the film, or yeah, I view that as the complete opposite. I view that as it makes my music more powerful to exist with the story.
So yeah, in general, what is inspiring you?
Oh, what's inspiring me right now is, let's see, what have I been listening to lately? I've been listening to, for various projects, I've been listening to a lot of Louis Armstrong, a lot of Tangerine Dream, and a lot of Ben Frost. There's so many musics out there. I sometimes feel very insecure because there is so much music to be heard and listened to and be influenced by. That being said, how wonderful it is that when we embark on a new journey, on a new project, that we have such incredible artists all over to inspire us. And so I oftentimes, when I start a new project, will just create a playlist just for me, maybe just for me and the filmmaker, or me and the team I work with, to get us excited for what we're doing. And so that's kind of what inspires me. It's kind of on a project-to-project basis, but I'll create a playlist and I'll use that to get me excited. And most of the times that playlist is nothing like the music I write for the movie. It's just music that is asking a question, and I'm trying to find the answer to it.
Mm-hmm. So do you like temp tracks?
Temp score it's like a hammer. I'm not the one who said this. I can't remember who said this. I think it might have been Alan Silvestri. So the temp score is like a hammer. It's in the hands of someone who knows what they're doing. It's a great tool, but it could also be a terrible weapon, And so for me, I've had instances most of the time where the temp score is a great tool. It's a way for the filmmakers to communicate what they want, but by using the language of music, which is a language I speak. And so a lot of filmmakers might not feel comfortable saying, oh, I want something high tempo, very bright, very forward, and very exciting. They might not know that's what they want. They might not be able to understand that, but play a piece of music that they like and they'll understand that. So oftentimes it's a great tool in getting directly into the filmmaker's psyche. Of course, we've all been there when it's a terrible tool where the filmmakers, the producers, the studio might say, look, just give us the temp score, give us the temp music. Luckily, I've never been in a position where the whole score's like that. It's usually just, on a lot of movies, there's usually those one or two cues where, nothing you could do is ever as good as the temp, so you kind of have to use the temp to get inspired. It's not a problem. It is what it is. It's the reality of it. We all know it, and you try to find interesting ways to deal with it.
Yeah, what do you think is the best thing about composing?
The best thing about my job, the best thing about composing is that everything I do is a learning experience. Every project I do, I know there's some composers who are very successful walking into the room and saying, I know exactly what your project needs. It needs this, this, and this, and this, and I'm going to do it, and it's going to be amazing, and they get the job. I'm not good at that, because I walk into the room saying, hey, I don't know what you need. Tell me about your movie. Tell me what story you're trying to tell, and let's find the best music we could get for this story. And so in some ways it's a weakness, because I feel like every movie I do, I'm relearning how to compose in a way. But isn't that exciting, that I walk into a movie and I try to figure out what the movie needs and create exactly what that movie needs. And so my composition process will evolve and change for the rest of my life, because I'm always trying to achieve what the story needs, rather than just saying, oh, I'm a film composer, I know what I'm doing, here's some strings, here's a piano, here's an orchestra, great, we're done, movie done, next movie. No, I look at it as something a lot more sacred than that. And so that, to me, is the most exciting thing about what I do, is finding the answers to those really obtuse questions of what exactly are we doing here, how are we going to tell this story.
And is there something that makes it less fun?
Oh, that's a great question. Schedules. Schedules make it a lot less fun. I think schedules are great because we need to deliver a movie. I think, without the schedule, without the deadlines, we would never get it done. We would just sit there and be artists and, reminisce about, how we could do this or that, and, ruminate on ideas forever. So it's both bad and good. I think the good of it is you see a schedule, and that's part of the discussion. Say, okay, how do we achieve the best thing we have, we could get for this movie, but within this schedule? And sometimes you could use that to your advantage. But that being said, the other disadvantage of schedule and the disadvantage of what we do is everything is so digital, so inside the box, so easy to manipulate to the end, that generally the film is being manipulated to the very end. And a lot of times the downside of that is the movie's not necessarily getting better, it's just getting different. And by getting different, it's causing all these issues with how we're trying to finish the music, but we can't because the movie keeps changing. So that is one of the downsides, But that being said, it is thrilling that we could change a movie up to the very end, and try to make it better, So that is a great tool. I wouldn't want to sacrifice that tool just because it can be annoying or painful part of the process. It's just the natural part of the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, now about Tron Legacy. How was it to work with Daft Punk?
I learned so much from Daft Punk because they are such incredible artists and musicians that they changed the way I think about my job. It's kind of led to where I am now, where I look at myself as an artist who's crafting something for each film. Up until then, I was very young, and I really was just approaching every situation going, oh, I just want to make music. I just want to do whatever I can to get the film score. But ever since then, I've realized, oh, I need to approach this conversation, this film, this story as an artist and figure out my own artistic take on it rather than just saying, oh, I'll just score this movie with some strings, piano, whatever. They really showed me how one can separate themselves from just being an ordinary film composer to someone who's going to bring a unique artistic vision to the table that is going to be a major contribution and major positive for a film.
Mm-hmm. And so you composed together with them, or how could?
Well, they were the composers. Daft Punk wrote all the melodies and were there at every step of the way in the room. And so I was there to help translate that to the orchestra, to help do the mock-ups, because they had not scored a film before, so they weren't familiar with the pipeline and how the process works. So I was there as kind of a, in some ways just an assistant to kind of help them deliver this movie. But obviously in the process, they had hired me and sought me out because of my experience as an orchestrator and arranger, not just with the technology. And that's the other thing. I have a deep love of electronic music and technology, so I knew all the technology very well. So I could help build the studio and help build the template and build the sounds. So I was really just kind of someone who could help them achieve their vision. And in doing so, I was able to contribute to what they were doing, but also learn so very much from them. It was an incredible adventure.
Now work for Tron Uprising. How did you get to this project?
So I started hearing about Tron Uprising in the middle of Tron Legacy, and we weren't even done with the film, and I was already kind of talking with the creator of Tron Uprising, Charlie Bean, and the network and the studio, and kind of understanding what they want to do. They had spoken to Daft Punk as well, and Daft Punk had given me their blessings. They said, hey, we think this is something that Joe's going to be great at doing, and so it was a real honor and thrill to take what we had developed for the movie, and the movie's only 2 hours long. With the TV series, I think we did something like 20 episodes, half hour each, so with a lot of music in each. So it was an amazing way to take the sound and the ideas that we had developed on the movie and then to really let it bloom into something much longer form. It's an exciting project.
Mm-hmm. Great. So I hope I could see it one day. So I love the world of Tron. Mm-hmm. And So what can you tell us about your work on Only the Brave?
I was really honored to be a part of that project for many reasons. One being, it was the third movie I did with Joe Kosinski. I was so thrilled that he invited me to be a part of his third film. But also, and more importantly perhaps, is just to tell this amazing story of these brothers, basically, this brotherhood of firefighters, and to help honor them and kind of, enshrine their memory in a way and memorialize them. So it was really important to me for the story to be very personal. So the way I approached it was, anytime you heard the guitar, I wanted the guitar to feel like you were in the room. I kind of imagined one of the main characters, played by Miles Teller, Brendan. I imagined, what if he was a guitar player, and what if he was telling you his story by, just sitting next to you and playing the guitar for you and singing to you. So that was my whole way into thinking about the movie, and so everything grew out of there. I did a lot of sessions with some incredible guitar players, kind of just testing stuff that you'll never hear, that was never on the record, but just to kind of understand how we can make this work. And then obviously that then grew to, obviously we recorded a lot of strings for that as well, but really it all started with the very intimate, one-on-one guitar, simple guitar sound, and then it just grew from there. So it was really an incredible experience because I don't play the guitar. It was I had to kind of learn how to speak a different language, and it kind of goes back to what I was saying about how each film, I feel like I'm just starting out again. I'm just learning to be a composer each time I start a movie, because I'm trying to find something profound, something beyond just, you know, something that works. I'm trying to find something that connects with the audience on a tremendously deep level.
Mm-hmm. And and you mentioned Joseph Kosinski. How would you describe to work with him?
Oh, working with him is so inspiring because he has such an incredible vision for the film. You know, he knows exactly what he wants emotionally and dramatically, but he's also willing to let you explore musically. So he's not going to box you into a specific musical place, but he is going to create an environment for you so that you know exactly what he's looking for. And so each time we sit down and get together and listen to music and talk about the score, I feel like I'm getting closer and closer to his exact vision, so that, you know, by the time we're mixing and we're recording, I have this tremendous sense of achievement because we've built something together, you know, and that is something that is somewhat rare. It doesn't happen on every project. I've been very lucky to work with some incredible filmmakers, and I think Joe is really a great example of what a great filmmaker can build. It's great.
Now about the Greatest Showman, how did you come to the project?
A few years before the movie came out, I was introduced to the director by one of the music executives at Fox who had worked with the filmmaker before, when this music executive was a music supervisor and worked on a lot of musical projects before becoming a music executive. So he had introduced me to the filmmaker, and then the filmmaker and I got along really well, talking about the movie, just talking about what he wanted to achieve with the music, with the songs, with the score. And then after that, I met with Pasek and Paul, Benj Pasek and Justin Paul, the songwriters, and we got along great. So we decided to then proceed with bringing me in to produce 3 songs as a test. And this was 3 years, I guess 2.5 years. At this point, it was 2.5 years before the movie came out, before the movie was even greenlit. Mm-hmm. And so it was kind of like a test for all of us to see if this could even work. Mm-hmm. So I produced those songs, and after some honing in with the songwriters and with the director, we all felt really good about them and presented them to Fox, and Fox was really excited by them. And so they greenlit the movie, and then they made the movie, and I was at various stages of involvement throughout. You know, sometimes there were songs that I had nothing to do with. There were other songs that I would work on, then another producer would work on, and they would come back to me. John Debney was eventually brought in to score the film, who's incredible. And then midway through the project, you know, everyone kind of realized, hey, to really have to flow with the songs, we need to bring in Joe to kind of work with John and work with the whole team to help the songs and the score really connect. And so I eventually came back to help finish the movie, and it was a real journey, you know. And I think the great lesson for anyone to take away from that is that the musical journey, the musical experience is never just going from point A to point B. Sometimes it's a really squiggly line, left, right, up, down, sideways, and so that was a 3-year project of love. We all loved the music, we all loved the story, but, you know, at certain points in time I wasn't involved at all, and at other points in time I was super involved. So it was really an amazing process, and I think perhaps the most thrilling thing is, you know, to see that it's launched into the world and so many people love it and listen to it, and it's kind of unbelievable for it to have that success, because I don't know, you live with something so long as your baby, and you know, you don't even think about what's going to happen when it's going to go into the world, because you don't really have, I find that I don't really have the mental capacity to think about that. I just have to think about making something great. And so it's really a shock when it goes out in the world and people agree with you, like, hey, this is really cool, we love it, you know. So it's been an incredible process, both making the movie and also seeing it, you know, come to life afterwards.
Yeah, of course, it was 7 years in the making. So yeah, because the studio doesn't like it first, and then had to convince, and then see, okay, other musicals are are good, and so yeah, it's a great movie. I love it.
Oh, great!
I saw it in the cinema, and just loved it.
Oh, great!
And so you also composed great music for it.
I hope so. You know,
from here.
No, it's great. No, it was great. It was a great. It was a thrilling process because I learned so much from John Debney. He's like a mentor to me, and we're really close friends now. And so To have the opportunity to collaborate with someone like that is really just an honor and a thrill.
Great. What are your current projects?
Well, I just finished Robin Hood, and I'm really excited to share that with you. That comes out in November. That's been the big one, and I'm working on a ton of other things right now that I can't talk about, unfortunately. I really wish I could tell you all about each one of them, but I have several projects that are almost ready to come out and be shown, and it's really thrilling to be at a point where I've been able to work on so many different cool projects that I'm always excited when I walk into the studio. It's always a new adventure, a new challenge, new problems to be solved, but I wouldn't want it any other way. It's a thrilling career.
Thank you for the interview.
My pleasure.
Oh.
Wonderful to meet you, Anne. Thank you so much for your time.